Yo, what's good, YouTube? What's good? It's STORMYBMAN, and I am back. Welcome to the post-fight show with STORMYBMAN for this Saturday, July 17th, 2021. And we are in the house to talk about the undisputed super welterweight championship of the world, or junior middleweight championship of the world. As we saw this evening, the two champions, Romero Charlo and Brian Castano, come together to try to unify the titles that were in their possessions. And it was a very good night of boxing. Once again, boxing took the time out to make sure that it shot itself in the proverbial foot. But as we come to know and almost expect, you can't get what you want in the sport of boxing, no matter how much you clamor for it, how much you rail against the system, how much you try to speak the truth about the sport. We see time and again that boxing shoots itself in the foot. So it is what it is. I mean, what are we going to do? Huh? What are we going to do? We try and we try and we try. Last week, or let's just say a couple weeks ago, we had the fortune of watching the bigger brother at the middleweight class, Romero Charlo, take on Montiel in a fight which a lot of people felt like, it was a lackluster effort for him. So all eyes were definitely on the brother at the junior weight class, because he was one step away from becoming undisputed. And it just came to be that on this night, there was a lot of pressure, and there was a lot of, like I said, a lot of eyes on him to see what would happen. And the thing that we got was a very, very good fight. I had talked about this fight in my pre-fight breakdown, and we're going to talk about it a little more. But I got my man Boxing Conversations with Reggie Owens, fresh off of his call of the fight. And salute to KQKC out there as well, who was given a great call of the fight as well. And I was listening to you both, brothers. I was able to do that. I got these devices now, and I put them to work. So I'm supporting everybody. And welcome to the show, Reggie. How you doing this evening, man? Great call, by the way.
Oh, thank you, OG, man. And I'm doing good. What a spectacular fight card tonight.
Yeah, and let me just say this for you guys that haven't tuned in to Reggie's broadcast. He does a wonderful thing about keeping his listening and viewing audiences entertained, man. I'm just gonna say you have to see it for yourself. But those little interludes in between the fights, Reggie, I tell you, man, it make me feel good that my wife wasn't sitting there watching the whole thing with me, so I could enjoy it. It's like, but hey, man, you sure know how to entertain, brother. Let me just say that. Yes, sir.
Yeah, yes, sir.
But hey, man, again, a great night of boxing. A lot of times when you think you're gonna see something in the sport, you get surprised. And tonight was one of those nights, and it was like you you were anticipating the fight because the main event was a unification for Undisputed. So quite naturally, you know, your thoughts and your feelings and everything are wrapped up into it being something, you know, pleasing. And though it was that, Reggie, we saw that as the battle went on, it became what you really want when you have something like this. You didn't want a quick knockout. You didn't want something where somebody didn't show up or whatever. There was ebb and flow tonight. There was a lot of pounding of the flesh, I would say. But seeing that you had, you know, caught up on everything with calling it. And by the way, you were behind me like almost a half a round in the broadcast. So what I did was, you know, when I really noticed that and picked up on it, I didn't write in the chat, you know, and same with KQ, because I was listening to both of you guys broadcast. But prior to that, you were only, you know, for the other fights, you were only behind maybe a few seconds, like under 10 seconds. But for whatever reason, when it got to the main event, you dropped back and you were behind me a little bit further. So I don't know what that was, but I'm glad that we were able to get through this and, you know, hear the call of the fight and everything. So, but yeah, man, salute and a great call. But go ahead and give us your opening thoughts and comments on what we were able to see in the main event for this evening.
Man, we watched a great fight between two champions, man, and a champion. And it's the other thing I just got to put out when it comes to boxing. This sport ain't about your favorite American fighter. This sport ain't about the fighter from your state. It ain't about the more popular fighter. This ain't celebrity boxing. These guys from all over this dang world, because boxing is an international sport, and men from all over the world can fight. And men who participate in this sport put in the time to get in here and battle anyone. And that's who Brian Castano was. Many people didn't know much about Brian Castano. They watch him against other fighters. But when watching him versus Laura, in a way he never backed up, he was just relentless against Laura. I mean, I just knew it was going to end up being a tough fight for Charlo, and it really turned out to be a tough fight. And some people who are fans of Charlo's like, man, what's going on with Charlo, man? What's happening? Why he's not doing this? It wasn't what Charlo wasn't doing. It's what the opponent would not allow. Sometimes you got to make adjustments in these fights. And Brian Castano was just that dude. He's a tough, strong dude. And you've seen it. Anytime I watch Charlo try to push this guy back, the guy went nowhere. This guy walked forward. He showed you how extreme his conditioning is, because this guy never stops. This guy didn't show any sign. Charlo's another guy who you don't really see tired, but he's in here with a strong dude who didn't tire, who rarely ever walks backwards. The only time you've seen Castano go backwards is when he was hurt. The guy is tough. He's strong. He's a shorter fighter. Like stated yesterday when we were talking, it's some short dudes that master in fighting guys who are taller and bigger than them. They mastered at that. So just because you're bigger and taller than some folks, you better choose wisely on what short person you choose you want to pick on. And that's what Castano was tonight. He's one of these short dudes who masters in fighting taller guys. And he probably he drools over that. He bites at the bit to get in there with a tall guy, because you think you're going to go in there and do something, you're going to find out it's something different about this guy. And he walked forward, and that's another reason why Charlo moved back. And Charlo seemed to kind of get a momentum swing when he heard him. Castano for a moment went into kind of freezing up on his offense and having to rethink things. And then it immediately changed the following round, in round 3, where he rocks Charlo. He rocked Charlo good, and Charlo held on. This shows the conditioning of both of these fighters. Charlo began to try to hold and regather himself, but Castano kept coming forward. When Charlo would go on those ropes, he just tee off to the body, man, and just start working on Charlo. He would loop over some of those hooks, and those punches were hurting Charlo. Charlo felt them, but Charlo got good facial strength where he doesn't lump up, he doesn't really cut up or anything. He's a durable guy, but this rematch is a definite. They going definitely back into a rematch. There's some things Charlo's going to have to work on. I thought the game plan from Charlo was a good game plan, except for Charlo sitting on the ropes. That wasn't part of the game plan. That was Charlo trying to deal with the strength of this guy. But working off the jab in the center of the ring was good from Charlo, maintaining that distance, forcing Castano had to close in the gap. Charlo should have made it a dangerous area to try to close in from, and he didn't. He just wasn't active enough on the jab. Castano was very busy, kept moving forward, kept throwing off punches, kept giving himself rounds to take away from Charlo. And even when Charlo would have a round one early or around one early, or Castano's winning a round, Charlo would either come on too late or just not do enough, or he'll start giving up the rounds that he was winning in. I think Castano just gave himself the chances of stealing rounds by rounds, and it caused to where what's the name? Derek James even let Charlo know, you got to get a knockout. You got to knock this guy out. Charlo tried to turn up in round 10, had this guy hurt very bad, and what we watched, this guy come right back from that. Watch the dude recover from that, start moving well. Charlo wasn't able to cut him off. Charlo wasn't too quick with his feet because hurt Castano was able to outmaneuver him, and Castano showed he had good foot movement when needing to get out of danger. And I got to tip my hat off to him. But this guy's a very strong guy, and to watch him recover because he's hurt pretty bad, and he recovered very well. But that's my opening thoughts on that one. But what an excellent fight between these two champions to come there. But the referees is another issue. The judge is another issue.
Yeah, first of all, I want to say this. It says we got 50 people watching, right? Please smash the like button, people. You come in, Reggie and I stay up beyond the fights and everything to bring you a post-fight show where we can have a complete discussion about the action that we witnessed earlier. And the least you could do is, if you're going to be here, is smash the like button. I know the family that's out there in the chat does their part, but we seemingly are picking up more viewers and everything, and we really appreciate the support. It's not a shakedown, but you know, when I go in and I check out other brothers' channels and sisters' channels, I come in the door hitting the like button because I support them. You know what I mean? That's the least you guys could do, is just hit the like button. There's no reason that we should see such a discrepancy in the numbers when we do what we do. You know, you just heard me say I was listening to both KQ's broadcast and Reggie's broadcast because I support. And KQ sends a lot of his audience over here to watch us. So I show the support like that. And so does Reggie. So it's like, come on, that's the least you guys can do, man. Is hit the like button when you come in. We've made some changes here where the unwarranted won't even get a chance to write in the chat. But at the same time, we try to make this a family affair where we all love this sport and we come in supporting one another. Second of all, I want to say my alerts are working again. Thank God for that. Reggie, you can see it on the screen. The alerts are now working again for the Stormy B-Man channel. Everything is coming together and we getting ready to do some great things, man. But shout out to everybody that's out there and you're able to see and witness this. For the post-fight show, we're back with our alerts, and I want to greet my man Mike 202, who was the first to leave a super chat out there this evening. He says great fight night, and he was the second person to leave a super chat, and he said, you know, just to support, he said KQ, KC, and Reggie should call the fight together. Oh man, that would be something, wouldn't it? And we just had another super chat. Excuse me, as the thing is scrolling kind of fast for me here. I'm trying to keep up. Robert Smiley out there in the super chat. Appreciate your donation. Appreciate Mike 202, who's also a channel member. And we have another channel member that joined earlier. I wasn't able to see the name on that, but I will go back and review that, and then I will announce on the air who that person is, because I appreciate any and all support that comes by way of you guys who show that love and support for us out there. But man, Reggie, it's like Christmas for me to hear my alerts working once again, man. Do you know that they hadn't been working since December? That's how long it's been, bro. That's how long it's been. So salute, and let's get it. But I'm sure you guys can see my enthusiasm about that, because that it really affects the channel. Because when you guys want to show support by giving donations, or subscribing or becoming a member, and you don't see the alerts, it's kind of disheartening. You're doing these things and what's supposed to transpire is not. So that's a new wrinkle since the monetization. Now that stuff has been corrected. So keep on keeping on, and we're going to keep on moving forward. Great opening remarks on this, Reggie. My opening remarks are simply, I stated in my pre-fight video breakdown, I said that this fight was going to be tougher than a lot of people thought. I favored Mel going in, and I thought my favoring him was contingent upon him being able to do some things athletically that he did not do tonight. But he still fought, and fought like a champion. He was hurt several times in the fight, just like Castano was hurt really one time in the fight, and he was wobbled a couple of other times in the fight. It's a difference between being hurt and being wobbled. When he was hurt, that was in that second round, because he got caught clean on the chin with a left hook counter by Mel while he was trying to go in and land big shots himself. Then he comes back in the next round and he hurts Mel. And I'm like, holy crap, this is what I'm talking about, right? It's like, because now it becomes, hey, all that bravado, posturing, machismo and stuff, that goes out the window now. Now you got to focus up and be like, man, I can't let this guy get me out of here. And that's how they fought. There was a lot of give and take and a lot of play here, but there were tactical mistakes on both sides by these guys, and it played out like I thought it would. I watched film on Castano. That draw against Lara should not have been a draw. That should have been a victory for him. And everyone knows how difficult a fighter Lara can be, and that fight was a few years ago when Lara still had, more pop and steam. So that was no mistake. And then I've watched how when he's able to get close to an opponent, Reggie, he does the body work like nobody's business. That body work is what really pays off in the later rounds, because when someone's able to do that, you can slow an opponent down so they can't move away from you and can't get out of the way of your shots, and that is a tactical thing that I knew he was going to try to implement. And I don't believe that Mel respected that until he got rocked and hurt. Salute to my man William Old School Ardent out there in that super chat. He says, salute Stormy B Man, love the show. And I love to have you come back and support the show, man, and show your support that way. And just by coming up here in the chat, writing, interacting with the others, and just being a part of this process, man, because we do this for you guys. So much respect to you, William Old School Ardent. Appreciate you, bro. But yeah, Reggie, I saw some things tactically, and I know that in the corner, our brother Derek James was getting a little excited, and he was telling Mel, you got to do this, you got to hit that like this, but they were not verbal expressions of directions. And again, I gotta fault him on that, because he got a little excited. You can't be excited and keep your fighter calm down and keep your fighter focused in a certain manner. Now, what he was supposed to tell Mel is that keep the fight in the center of the ring. The guy has a problem in the center of the ring where you make him pick up his feet. How do you do that? When you jab, you circle as you jab, and then you circle back the other way. You don't keep going the same way, but you make him pick his feet up, because he can't punch with power if he's picking his feet up while he's trying to chase you down and things like that. The second thing was to back the guy up. The guy is only effective coming forward because he's trying to push you into a place where your options are limited as far as moving. And against the ropes, you can only move left or right, but you can't move away. So it's like he could slide with you as you're sliding along the ropes. If you're near a corner, he puts you in the triangle, which is what I call that triangle. And the triangle at the end where the ring post is the widest space to move left and right. But if he's standing at the tip of the triangle, your options are limited because one step to the right or one step to the left and he's got you. So it's like the center of the ring is where it should be at. Thirdly, where were the punches up the middle underneath? Didn't see many of them at all from Mel. Mel was really head hunting. He was really trying to bang the guy. And I'm going to tell you something. There are men in the sport of boxing that I have seen over the years. You could hit them in the head with a ball bat and they ain't going nowhere. Okay? So work the body, man, because rib cages, solar plexus, livers, and even heart and lungs don't know the difference between a heavy hitter or a feather-fisted hitter. It all hurts. Okay? So where was that good body work that should have been there by Mel? And where was the reminding of it by Mr. James? See, this is the part where you have to be critical because you're not being a cheerleader. You're being someone who's breaking things down. Castano was at home with most of what Mel was doing in the fight. He could contend with that. The part that he wasn't able to deal with was when Mel was forcing him backwards and when Mel brought shots up and underneath. Remember in that one round, I think it was either the 10th or the 11th, where he seemingly was rocking Castano backwards, but the shots weren't landing really clear. They was glancing off the arms and everything, but the guy was moving backwards because of Mel's aggression coming forward. Now, where he made the mistake was, yeah, he opened up throwing the shots up top like that, but he didn't come back with anything underneath to the body. And again, it was there for him. And it's not like he couldn't do it, but he wasn't being reminded of the things that he needed to do. Remember, I've talked about the philosophy of speaking in the corner. A lot of times, and especially because this was a highly competitive fight, less is more. Okay, you give the guy 2 or 3 things, but one thing in particular you give him that you really need him to do. And when you give him that, you kind of stress it by repeating that one thing each round. He'll get it. Okay? And that wasn't there. Now, is this like raining on Mr. James? Absolutely not. He's a wonderful trainer. He's been trainer of the year. He's got 2 of the unified champs in his stable, and he's got more on the way. He's good for boxing, and he doesn't get the credit he deserves. But this was one of those fights where Mel was being contested. And let's just face it, there haven't been a lot of that. Tony Harrison presented problems because he's a good, slick boxer. But Tony Harrison was never, ever, ever trying to knock Mel out. Never. This man tonight was trying to knock him out. But he was limited in his options on how to knock him out. So he needed him to be in a certain position. He needed him to be within a certain range and space where he could operate. And when you have someone with those type of limited options, you take them away by doing what he doesn't want you to do, which is those things that I was speaking of. And when you get a guy like that, that creates mental pressure. And guess what happens after mental pressure? Fatigue. Okay? Now, you put all this together and you get to these scorecards. My goodness, Reggie. Those scorecards, one judge had Castano winning. I was fine with that because I had him winning, believe it or not, 8-4. on my unofficial scorecard. The rounds were just adding up for him because of how he was taking the play away and because of how Mel was allowing that to take place. And some people might not agree with that. Some people will be like, man, are you crazy or whatever? But I'm telling you, I don't watch boxing with a vested interest. I'm not invested like, oh, that's my guy, or I like the other guy, or I hate this guy and I hate that guy. No, I'm looking at it like, wow, you know, I start counting the rounds and I'm saying to myself, I'm like, what? Really? Now, when Mel got him wobbled a couple of times in other rounds, that was great, right? But it wasn't enough like a 10-8 round where you get knocked on the canvas and you can score that point, which is why he was supposed to run off more combinations. The combinations will close the show, but he was keeping his hands at home a lot because of what was incoming, you see? So it comes out in the wash when you're talking about the play between the two. Good fight. Castano, to me, won the fight. But they got a draw out of this. It has to be a rematch. We need an undisputed champion. And I'll tell you, for any of you out there, you're listening to this particular critique and breakdown, it doesn't ensure that Mel wins the rematch. It doesn't. Because he's got to go home tonight. When his brother's gone, when his wife is fast asleep and everything, he's got to look at himself in the mirror and be like, did that guy really beat me? Or was it as close as the judges saw it or whatever? And the judge who had it, 117 to 111 or 112 or something like that, that person should be taken out back and given a good hiding, because that was a damn lie. That was a damn lie. He did not win that fight. And that was like they didn't give a round to Castano. And what about the round when he had Mel hurt and wobbled and you're not even going to give him that round? Get out of here, man. It's like we are seeing so much damage done by these judges in boxing. And we could go into the earlier fight of the night, too, when we talk about that. But it's like, I am sick and tired. They are ruining the sport. It's one of the reasons, and I wrote this in both of you guys' chats, Reggie, that the judges are so bad. It's one of the main reasons that boxing is no longer a top sport. Okay? Because you give these bullcrap decisions. You don't award the guys who actually come out on top. And you create controversy, and then that matriculates down into the observers who watch the sport. And they begin to develop their own narratives about who was robbed, and this was a wash, and you know that somebody got exposed, and all of this stuff. When people start talking like that, it's just speak, huh? Because it doesn't make sense. That kind of talk doesn't make sense. When you start talking about the X's and O's of boxing, when somebody wins and someone loses, that's the way it is. But it's this consolation thing where we kind of like give everybody a chance to be a winner by not declaring a winner. Get the hell out of here. They started that stuff in schools maybe about 35 years ago. Okay? And that's not a long time. But when they start making consolation prizes and everybody gets a award from getting out of kindergarten, going to the first grade, or graduating from the first grade to the second grade, and you get these little, certificates and stuff. What is that? Huh? Remember when you were in high school and stuff, they had valedictorian or whatever. Who's a co-valedictorian or the third valedictorian or the valedictorian runner-up and all? Get out of here. Somebody has to be a clear-cut winner. And if you've put in the work and your work is reflective of everything that the award means, you should get that victory. You should not have to contend with someone else who was sleeping all year long. Huh? And borrowing assignments and cheating off of somebody else's paper and everything, and they get the same kind of consideration as you? No. This is what you're seeing in boxing. And I hear my man out there, W Soldier, says it's about more money, Stormy B. No, it's about integrity. It's about the integrity of the sport. Because I'll tell you like this. If you see night in and night out in the NBA finals, I don't even watch the NBA anymore. But if you see night in and night out, every game is contended and decided by a ref's whistle. A missed call here, a call there, given you're going to begin to say, hey, man, this is fixed. What's going on? And it happens. But sometimes they fool you by letting it go, okay? And that's what keeps you coming back. But in boxing, they don't fool you like that. If a guy ain't knocking another guy unconscious, he might not get the victory that he earned. And I'll tell you, Castano earned a victory tonight. You know why? Because there were a lot of people who didn't think he could. But if you had watched his career, if you watched how he performed, this is the kind of guy who will always give certain fighters a hard time. And did you see Mel go over and get a guy a hug, you know, shortly after the fight was the final round or whatever? That's respect. I ain't never seen him go over and hug people like that. You know what I mean? It's like, this is very revealing. And no, he's not kissing up or whatever, but he respected the guy because he felt a certain kind of way about the guy going in. And I know he hit that guy with some of his best shots that put other people down and out and away. And the man was still there trying to take his head off. That's boxing. That's the real part of the sport that has been sorely missed. And it's too bad that one of them didn't knock the other out, because then we wouldn't have had to go to such a horrendous decision through the process. It ruins the sport. It ruins it. Because you leave there and a lot of people tomorrow morning, people who support Mel, people who love him or whatever, they're going to go out and say, you know what? I like my boy, but I don't know if he wanted, you know. But if they gave the other guy the decision, it would force them to be like, look at things a different way. And then you'll have somebody say, oh, he was robbed. No, he wasn't robbed. He was in a competitive fight. And in competitive fights, the other guy gets consideration sometime. But who in the hell was that judge that had it so wide for Mr. Charlo? I don't know what the hell that was about. I don't like it. And we could still talk more, Reggie, but I know I was quite long-winded there. But I just felt like I had to say that much, you know, because it just, to me, I mean, we and you and I, we talk about it all the time because we do the shows together, and we, you know, when you call in the fights and stuff, these judges, man, that's another name for the record books, along with that judge that was in that first fight, man. Where is the integrity for the sport? How can you look yourself in the face and feel good? So what if he's a friend of the promoter or whatever, or they went to dinner and all of that? At the end of the day, you're an asshole for doing that kind of stuff. We could have had an undisputed champion tonight. And so what? If it would have been Castano, run it back, have a rematch. That's what I often said this. I've done live streams on this, and I've talked about it in videos. Rematches help sustain the sport, because when you have an outcome that is unsettling or definitive or whatever, a guy can come back. It gives him more to shoot for. It gives him more incentive. Sometimes you have pride involved, and they be like, man, I can't believe so-and-so kicked my butt. I got to get mine back. Why you think Deontay Wilder wants Tyson Fury so bad in the rubber match? Because he wants to prove, just like many others in the history of boxing, that he can come back. And they don't want him to have his comeback. They don't want it. How can you not want it? We get it for everything else, right? Isn't America supposed to be the place of second opportunities and all of that? And you just heard me give the examples of like everybody getting awards and trophies and this and that, but you don't want this guy to get his back? So off with the heads of these poor judges in the sport, Reggie. I hate them. That's what I had to say for right now.
I hate these judges with a damn passion, my dang self. But the judge you're talking about in this Charlo fight with the 117, 111, who should, in my opinion, be investigated immediately. He should be called into a room and investigated, have him rewatch this fight and go over his scorecard. Because no one in their right dang mind saw 117, 111. The in the corner speech from Derrick James didn't solidify 117, 111 fight in itself. And the crowd even showed this is a respectable crowd. Like I said, I want to keep highlighting that crowd because they showed a lot of respect. And that's how I expect for fans at a fight to behave and to show respect towards what you watch. You watched a great fight. They could have held back on the booing with the Rolly fight, but they did a great job. And then in that first fight, which was a spectacular dang fight, stolen away by these sorry judges, the two judges, Glenn Crocker and Ruben Caron, or whatever his name is, with the 97, 93 scorecards was crap to try to keep this guy Vidal, who's an up-and-coming rising guy, as an undefeated fighter. If you want to try something, don't make the scorecards that far. Aleem didn't win 3 rounds in that 10-round fight. That was a back-and-forth war. The crowd saw it. It was a great effort put on by both fights. But don't be robbing folks. If these judges aren't paying attention, sometimes cameras need to be put on these judges because I don't think judges are sitting in there watching these full fights. And also back to fans, because I always get on when I see with boxing fans, I go through a lot of the boxing channels, and I look and I'm like, man, a lot of these folks ain't fans out here. A lot of these folks don't even like boxing. They just trying to be around something that's cool, something that's trendy that them picked up on, because you hear language from people talking about exposed. Charlo wasn't exposed tonight. You got to give credit to Castano for being that dude. He's the guy who brought in tough work in war against Jermell Charlo. Many people wanting to see their favorite fighter go in here and destroy somebody. Every opponent ain't a laydown. And not every fighter, because they don't have this stunning performance or dominating performance, mean they got exposed. You're just in here against somebody who's tough. And all it takes is to go back to the drawing board, because he's going to have to rematch this guy and figure out some things he didn't do right in his first fight and go back at him. Charlo held back on a lot because he knew what he's in there with. Charlo's feeling what he's in there against. This is a strong dude. Charlo knew he just couldn't go in here and run through this guy. This guy ain't Tony Harrison. This guy ain't Jason Rosario. He ain't Erickson Lubin. Castano is something different. And just because he happened to be from somewhere foreign to us, don't mean he ain't that guy. Everybody don't come from our backyard. Everybody don't come from our hoods as being the only people who know how to fight on this planet. Like I said, you travel anywhere in this world, you get to start in some crap, you bound to get your head bashed in by somebody all from other regions of this planet. So everybody got knuckles and know how to use them. And I think fighters should be respected, whether we know them or not. Castano proved that, and it was a tough fight. Charlo didn't lose anything. He wasn't exposed. He was gifted a decision, in my opinion, which I thought he lost the fight, but he's lucky. But they're going to have to definitely get back to the drawing board. And I hear Charlo talking all this talk to my manager talk now. Hopefully he ain't going to be hiding away from this guy. He ain't going to start sitting behind Al Heyman to not get this fight against this guy and try to take it mandatory. There's a lot of money in line for this fight, and they have to go back and do it. Charlo just got to stay off those ropes. He has to be more active with that jab. I thought the jab with the right hand behind it was very effective. And also what you were saying earlier is he headhunted too much. Even when he had Castano hurt, every punch was to the head. Yep. And then Castano, all he had to do was keep the hands up. Charlo didn't throw anything to the body. And I think sometimes what makes short fighters good against taller fighters is that some tall fighters, they fear taking the risk of trying to shoot to a shorter person's body because they have to give up height and step on the inside, sometimes leaving them susceptible to some of the bigger punch from shorter guys. But Charlo had opportunities of tagging Castano down to the body, and he held back on it even when Castano was in survival mode. Castano just did basic things to survive because he knew Charlo wasn't going to the body. Just bring these hands up, keep moving. If all Charlo's looking for is a load up. And Charlo's going to see that, and it's good that this fight is done. He keeps on to his belts, and he can watch the videotape, and next time he can see if he can apply it. But it's going to be tough, regardless of how many times they fight. If they fight 10 times, those are going to be 10 fights with the roll of dice. So ain't no telling who pulls that off. I think these two guys are going to be perfect matches for one another. They're going to be perfect matches for one another. And they both strong dudes who whether hurt or not, they're gonna pull themselves up, survive that, not get dropped, and then continue on the fight. These gonna always be tough fights. So ain't no guarantees in boxing. That's just my thoughts on that one.
Absolutely, Reggie. Do you remember me saying last night on the chop session? I said I posed a question. I said, do you think that Brian Castano is better than Jason Rosario? And you was like, oh, well,
absolutely.
I don't, and then, because this is what I was getting at, because I felt this the whole time. I favored Charlo for the fight because I thought that with the abilities that he had, he should have been able to do certain things that could have made this a better fight in his favor. But sometimes when you get the guy in front of you, it don't work out like that. So salute to Big Texas Cletus Smith out there who says Charlo wins the rematch. Here's a note for you, Big Texas. He didn't win this fight. He didn't. So there's no guarantees here in boxing. No guarantees. The only thing that you can hope for is a great fight. And we got one tonight. They just got the decision wrong, as they have done so many times since we no longer have 15-round fights. Had this been a 15-round fight, you would have seen a definitive winner, because they were just getting going rounds 10 through 12. You know why I say they were just getting going? Because technique, conditioning, all of that was waning. Now it became the last couple of rounds. Who really wants it? And we didn't get to see the finish. That's why if you guys listen to us when we're on the Three Wise Men of Boxing, Scrapbook Boxing, Kurt Sugar and myself, we talk about the history of the sport, and we always bring certain things up. 15-round fights always separated the fighters. Always. There would be a guy who would just peter out and get knocked out or stopped or quit on his stool because he ain't got no more. He ain't got nothing left. Then there's a guy who can get knocked out because he's so fatigued that the final blow after accumulation, his body just checks out. Okay? And then there are some guys who realize that, you know what? I done caught a second. I think I'm on my third win. I'm ready. We're robbed of that because that's where the drama kicks in. There ain't no damn drama in a 12 round when you can automatically give one guy 6. Think about that for a moment. And someone in the chat earlier said that scorecard that was really wide. I can't go back up in the chat, and whoever that was, it said that card was filled out before the fight. It sure seemed like it, don't it? And that has happened before too. That has happened. The other thing that I wanted to point out was here you have great style contrast, okay, in the two men. And Reggie just alluded to it a moment ago. If they were to fight 10 times, you might get 7 same results and 3 results that are not the same. It's just kind of weird. Some weird stuff happens. Why? Because those are the intangibles that we often talk about. Us OGs, as you like to call us, we talk about intangibles because intangibles are really the things you can't figure into a fight until they happen. But I do know this. When Mel got hurt in that third round, he recognized, oh, this dude is for real. Huh? Because you know why? He's usually doing that to the other guy. For how many fights? And we talked about this also, us OGs. We talk about fighters of today not being challenged before winning titles. This was a situation where in a different era, Castano and Mel may have fought each other even before either one of them won a title. And that's what you don't see today. That guy can probably beat everybody else in the division, Castano. Because even when he was hurt, he wasn't going nowhere. He wasn't. You could see it in him. And guess what? Not a lot of the guys in the sport got that in them. That's why they're not stepping up to the plate. That's why they are not going in there testing themselves. Because they enjoy being in a great position where mostly everybody they face on paper, the outcome is already a foregone conclusion. Put some respect on both of these fighters' names for what they did tonight, but it's a shame and an injustice that the judges can't get it right. I feel the same way about tonight's decision like I felt about the decision between Danny Jacobs and Gabe Rosado. And Gabe Rosado, who has been in good, he's been in tough, he's been in difficult, has learned from the defeats he's had against quality opposition. And on that night, against a guy who wasn't there to win, but he thought that he should get the victory just because of his name or whatever, but not on the merit, not on putting in the work, was awarded a victory over a man who outboxed him, over a man who really worked at his craft. And the judges robbed him. Then he comes back against this young guy, and the young guy puts him down because that's what he does. He's a brute and bully who goes in there, becked the bully, and banged him to the body, had Rosado take a knee. And then Rosado comes back a couple rounds later and knocks the guy out. Justice. You think Beck the bully would have got knocked out by Danny Jacobs? No, he probably would have ran Danny Jacobs up out of there. Because Jacobs is done. He doesn't have that competitive nature anymore. He's touching M's now. And that's all he as long as he got some activator for his juice curl and everything, that's all he care about now. He don't care about the O's. He care about the M's. So that's why he ain't touching O's against quality opposition out there. But this man tonight put in the effort. Mel put in the effort because it was hard for him to stay on his feet as well. If you think that Mel wasn't in danger of going down on that canvas himself tonight, go back and watch this fight, turn the damn audio off, and just look at the film. I commend him for staying on his feet. And this was probably the first real challenge of his career. Real challenge. And he came out with flying colors, but he didn't win the fight. He didn't. You got something else on it, Reggie?
Yeah, the other thing pointed to Castano. Don't forget his amateur record and who's on there. We got to show who he is.
Oh, yeah. Thank you for reminding me of that. Because in the pre-fight interview, Earl Spence was talking about Castano. And Brian Custer asked him a couple of times. And because he's friends with Mel and everything, he didn't want to say anything. And I understand that, you know, Earl is in that seat now. He has to be diplomatic, and I respect it. But what he didn't say was more important than what he did say. Because he said the guy's a good fighter, and he didn't want to go beyond saying that. But you can believe that Spence, in his heart and mind, knew that this kid in for a fight tonight, meaning, his buddy. So I respect that. Again, you have to be able to be seasoned enough to see what is before your eyes. And Derek James can go back and look at this tape, and he can criticize himself, and I think he would agree with what I had to say about, certain things. Just making sure that he tells this charge of his specific instructions. I need that body work. I need that good body work. Make sure you touch him under them elbows. Make sure you touch him in the pit of that stomach. Huh? Where was that jab to the pit of the stomach that he hit Rosario with and got him up out of there with that? He didn't do it one time tonight. See? Remember, I talked about him, and I give him praise. I had him up there very high on my Thunderous top 10, and I talked about he being the kind of guy who can get you out of there with every kind of punch you can throw. But on this night, there were a few punches that he could have thrown that he didn't. And maybe he can try to do it for the rematch. But understand, the other guy's preparing for the rematch too. So he might add some new wrinkles as well. You just don't know. The person who comes in expecting the same thing over and over again, hey man, that's foolish. Be prepared for whatever. But I do know that the person who is more limited is Castano. So, but that's pretty much what I have on that, Reggie.
Yeah, that's all I had on that too, OG.
Okay, let's dial it back one fight to the Romero fight against this guy Yigit. Man, Rolly, and I heard you laughing, Reggie. I couldn't help but laugh myself, man. This guy he's pretty bad. He's pretty bad. I've seen some guys who don't have it, but he's pretty bad. He's pretty high up there. A lot of his scoring blows in this particular fight were elbows and forearms to the opponent's face, man. And that cut that Yigit had under his eye came from an elbow. Rolly likes to push, shove, grab, maul. This ain't football. You know what I mean? And it's obvious that he has a little strength at that weight, but it's like the boxing skill is not there. How he managed to get one of those trinkets around his waist, I don't know. But as soon as they put him in there with anybody that's decent, man, he going. His chin is way up in the air. He has absolutely no defense. He has this constipated look on his face all the time, like he's really trying to figure something out and there ain't even nothing happening. I don't know what's up with the guy. I don't even know how he makes it on television like this, because there are far better fighters out there who deserve to be on television than to see this guy out there. And just because he's in the Mayweather stable, I guess, or whatever, they could do a lot better than that. They could do a lot better than that. It's ridiculous. I think that's a disgrace to the sport, trying to highlight and profile people like that, putting them out there, because that was just, that kid that lost, he was beaten up physically, but not by boxing. That's what was amazing there. He was actually mauled to death in there, basically. A couple of shots landed home, yes, but to be elbowed and forearmed and shoved and mauled and everything like he was, I would have told, if that kid was my charge, I would have told him, hey, go out there and just wind up with a bolo shot and hit him in the nuts. Damn if the ref take a point or whatever. And you saw the ref did take a point from him. So I mean, but what were your thoughts, Reggie?
Man, Rolly is one of the funniest guys in the sport of boxing, man. That dude's so delusional and comical, and his self-belief is out of the dang universe, man. His delusion is crazy, but he came in here, he ultimately got the victory off of a punch that changed everything, because I thought the other guy was starting to come on strong. He was started mixing some good boxing on Rolly, step around on Rolly. You seen that Rolly's just a one trick pony. You can time and predict a lot what Rolly is doing. The wide stance does nothing. All Rolly is looking for is a counter with that right hand. He's very quick up on it. You just got to be quicker, and you can take it away. A good boxer is going to be able to take that away from Rolly and just mix Rolly up. That guy's stepping around on Rolly, was tagging Rolly. He was landing some good hooks of his own, popping Rolly with a few of those jabs. But right after that point was taken from Rolly, from all that roughhousing he was doing, because Rolly gets frustrated, and then he goes back to kind of the schoolyard bullying type stuff, wanting to fight like that. He ended up clipping that guy, hit him right on the temple. Right as the bell rung is where that happened. That guy really never recovered from that. And Rolly began to just turn it on. And that ultimately what changed the fight. But if he would have cleaned himself up and not got caught, he would have boxed circles around Rolly, because he's starting to do it. Rolly moving it forward. I know Rolly talking about calling out Tank, man. That's the delusion of this dude. He looking to fight Tank, man. It's going to be a massacre, man. Tank's going to just style on that dude, Rolly. Rolly getting there with a Devin Haney, gonna style on him. He ain't call out no Devin Haney, and I know he's real close friends with Teofimo. I'm shocked to not hear him call out for that, but he wants to go in there with Tank. He thinks Tank's gonna be the guy to slug in there. Tank can box, and Tank's ability to figure things out is he's sharp. Tank IQ is sharp, and you can just play with Rolly in the ring, because Rolly doesn't think at all. Like I stated, I don't think they take Rolly into training camps to fight like that. Rolly one of these fools you can teach something 100 times to. You can yell at him every time he's doing it wrong. And then when he starts to get it, you get inside the ring where he performs it, and he says, the hell with everything you taught me. Do what I want. And that's exactly what you see there. That wide stance, all somebody do is step around on Rolly. And he constantly has to reset those feet. He's too wide to really throw out a shot. Everything has to come wide, like windmills. And a person with effective jabs is going to catch Rolly all day. And Tank will dust Rolly off. His head is up in the air for one. He leaves that chin exposed. If this guy was a better puncher who fall in the night, he would have cleaned Rolly's chin up. I thought he was going to end up dropping Rolly. That's how he was starting to land his shots on Rolly before that punch landed. A guy like Tank is going to be able to connect to that chin because it's straight up in the air. He doesn't have good defense at all. He's just a big, strong right-hand puncher, and that's about it. I don't even know if he's really that strong of a puncher, because he generates a lot of travel on that punch, and he throws it pretty quick. But I think someone else, if he can't land that punch, he's getting mixed up. And let's say Tank can't take that right-hand punch, it's going to be curtains for Rolly. I don't think Rolly's that strong of a puncher like that, going up levels to be fighting those guys. But I don't think Tank's going to lower himself to looking down towards Rolly. There's a lot of big fights out here in the world for Tank Davis, but maybe Devin, I think Devin's way above taking a Rolly fight. Rolly still got more to prove. Maybe he can fight the guy he's supposed to fight tonight, Dulé, who ended up pulling out of this fight. This is the second time Rolly gets one of these late replacements in a fight, and he struggles coming early on in this fight before the knockout comes, but his boxing is really laxing. And I wouldn't even fault the trainer. I fought Rolly because Rolly's just a hard-head kid. He's one of these 51-50, and things don't click in the head of that kid. But that's my thoughts on him. But he's funny as heck, man.
Yeah, he is for comedy relief, but serious boxing, I don't know about that. You ever play sports like, basketball, pickup games, out on the court, in the playground, whatever, right? There's always a dude who is always out there on the court, but he can't dribble. He travels all the time when he get the ball. he hacks people to death nearly. You know, when you got the ball and he playing D on you, he'll knock you down or hit you real hard. And, you know, it's like you're looking at him like, dude, why don't you go play football or something? You don't need to be out here on the basketball court. That's Rolly in boxing. You know, it's like he has nothing for boxing. Nothing. I mean, I have seen small kids who come into the gym for the very first time have more than what he has. You know? And again, I don't know how he got to this stage and this level because he is so inept. And he seems to be celebrated and everything. And did you catch that Jim Gray interview? It was like Jim Gray was standing there. I never seen Jim Gray smile so hard. It's like he can see the joke, you know? And then when the guy responds like, oh, I want Tank Davis and everything, it's like, are you kidding me, man? That's like a dude sitting in the audience coming up there talking about, you know, I'm ready to take on Deontay Wilder or something, you know, or whatever. It's like, what? You know? Or like that, better yet, the football player, what's his name? The wide receiver, Brian something. You remember a couple years ago, he was trying to call out Wilder. It was like, dude, you better go sit your butt down.
Brandon Marshall.
Brandon Marshall. There you go. Brandon Marshall. He was talking stuff like he, you know, really? No, man. Rolly is like, now you could probably put him in football and he'll excel. You know, give him a defensive back position or something. He'd go out there and tackle people really well and stuff because that seems to be what he does. But boxing, I don't know. He looked like a boxer when he put on gloves and trunks and the shoes and everything, put a mouthpiece in his mouth until the bell rings. Then that's something of a whole different nature. It looks more like WWF meets UFC when he's in there. And that's putting it plain and simple. Can't believe his interview though, but you had me rolling too, talking about that dude, man. Yeah, we needed that comedy relief. But let's, hey,
I told you I was gonna be funny. Even before they get in the mic, I told you he's gonna say some comical stuff. The dude crazy, man. And Jim Gray was even added on to that comedy. I couldn't hold myself, man. I was dying, man.
Yeah, it's like, okay, next, you know, let's back to you in the studio or whatever. It's like, get the cameras away from this dude. And Reggie, did you see him after the fight was called? He got up on the ring apron and he was posturing and pounding his chest like he had really, you know, defeated somebody, you know, or what. There were boo birds. Go back and listen to it. I was cracking up, man. I was like, this dude is something.
Rolly's a legend in his own mind, man. He's the greatest guy to ever put gloves on.
Unbelievable, bro. Unbelievable. But hey, let's get down to the fight that took place in the opening bout of the evening, man, where we had what's his name? Amilcar Vidal against Imumil Alim. I hope I said it. I didn't assassinate his name, but Imamul Alim. This brother, I take it he was Jamaican because of the flag on his trunks and everything, and he's trained by Ronnie Shields. Reggie, again, we saw a horrible decision from the judges. This was a damn good fight, though. What a warm-up for the main event that was to come, right? I mean, this is what you would like to see when you're watching boxing, especially when you don't know the dudes, because they make you take note and then they make you say, man, I want to see this guy again or whatever, right? It's like, wow, man. This fight started in the second round. It's like that first round, Aleem came out. He took that first round on my card, kind of boxed the guy. And I knew that Vidal was the guy who was favored. But I'm like looking at this and I'm like, okay, my man giving angles. He's going left and right. He's moving. He's circling. He's jabbing. He's letting his hands go. He's doing some good stuff. But Reggie, in that third round, I think it was, when Vidal they sent him out to like, hey man, you the first couple rounds is too close. You need to get out there now. And he made the decision to kind of take the fight to Aleem. But the surprise was Aleem didn't back down, Reggie. That brother, he dug deep and he started fighting back, man. Then he started hurting Vidal. I was like, uh-oh, what we got here? You know what I'm saying? So I enjoyed that fight. Tell us what you saw and remind us of the call that you had as you were watching this.
Yeah, I was shocked this fight turned out to be so dang good, man. This was a good back and forth fight between these two. Not so much of a back and forth, but momentum shifts in this fight. And they came out here and they impressed, man. And that crowd was impressed by it. So, and usually you don't see crowds up on fights that are this low. Well, now some fights turn out good, but to see a crowd that formed in that stadium and got to watch a very, very good fight that probably needs to be ran back. Outside the judges ruining what the fight really showed to fans based on a jacked up scorecard. And I got the Glenn Crocker and Ruben Carry On or whatever his name is. But I had going out here to where Vidal ended up losing that first round. He didn't really do too much. I think he was spending a lot of time trying to figure out what Aleem was going to do. Aleem's movement was good. It froze up a lot of the offense from the outside from Vidal, who was much bigger as far as height and range. And he looked bigger in weight as well. He really didn't give off anything as Aleem was flicking out very, very good jabs, moving around on that guy. And it froze Vidal up. They came in the second round. He started to come on a little bit stronger was Vidal. He realized he needed to apply more pressure, let his hands go. He started to do that, but it was still just Aleem able to pull off those rounds. Then I have Vidal kind of taken away from rounds 3 to 6. I had him pulling away each of those rounds. He started pressing Aleem against those ropes, start using his thighs against Aleem, press him against his ropes. He punched well down to the body. So instead of him fighting like a taller fighter, he fought like a short fighter. He wanted to engage in pressing himself on Aleem. And Aleem was doing good as well. Aleem let punches go as well. Vidal was hitting well to the body. He ended up hurting Aleem in that 6th round. He hit Aleem with a clean shot. And Aleem, for a second, I thought was going down. He ended up staying up on his feet, digging deep because it was kind of late in the round. There wasn't too much left in that round. As soon as they get in the corner, I thought it was a smart thing from Ronnie Shields to make him stand for a little bit. Don't sit down right away. Let's loosen some of the pressure up on this one. Get you to breathe in a little bit. Then he allowed him to rest for about 40 seconds in that 1-minute break. Because he seen the punch, seen it was a big punch, even though Aleem ended up surviving that. Then they come into rounds 7. I end up giving to Aleem as well as 8, where Aleem ends up rocking. He ended up rocking Vidal. He caught Vidal with a nice punch, ended up rocking him. Then round 9 swings back over to Vidal. Round 10 goes over to Aleem, and they just both came out here and fight. I think each fighter only took off like 1 round, which I think the 7th round they took off. The 6th round, what's the name, gave up the round because he even told Ronnie Shields that where he got caught with that body shot because he was starting to take off in that round. He took off in that round, ended up getting himself caught, and he told Ronnie that. They both came into that next round. I don't know if Vidal punched himself out because he didn't give enough follow-up in that 7th round. He seemed to kind of need to catch his breath. As he started letting off a lot of punches, couldn't get Aleem out of there. And Aleem just, pop shot him, scoring shots, wasn't putting too much thump behind his punches, but really just trying to cruise through the round as Vidal allowed him. And then they kind of went back and forth from there. But they fought the whole fight through and through. Not too much holding. I think the ref only broke these fighters apart maybe 4 or 5 times. And they just went to war. And that crowd enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. There's a lot of big punches landing in there, a lot of good work. And I thought these dudes fought a very, very thrilling fight. And maybe if Charlo, matter of fact, these guys may move themselves up to a co-feature fight. I think if Charlo and Castano go back and do it for the rematch, Vidal and Aleem ought to be on that card.
Yeah, that would be great to see a rematch between these two, because I think you'll see a more sterner effort from Aleem. I remember, as you just alluded to, one of those rounds, he came back and he told Ronnie, he was like, he said he got that round got away from me, or something like that, he said to Ronnie. And that let me know how focused he was on the fight, because he was determined to be competitive. He knew that he wasn't the house fighter or the name fighter in the fight. So his efforts were sincere, trying to get out there and make something happen. If you notice, Reggie, he was very busy with his hands. He was definitely letting his hands go far more than Vidal. But at the end of the fight, when they showed the punch stats to the body, Vidal had like 70 punches to the body or something, and they attributed him with having 40 plus or something. But he still threw far more shots than Vidal did. And Vidal in the first couple of rounds was posing and posturing and everything. And he hurt Vidal a couple of times in the fight, just like he was hurt himself. The irony is, this fight, believe it or not, Reggie, went a lot like the main event fight. And the decision was the same. Isn't that something?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's like, you know, they were quite similar. And as you said, if they have a rematch for Charlo and Castano, I would love to see these two guys come back on the undercard of that, because maybe they could set the tone again for what to expect or not to expect. But yeah, I thought it was a very good fight, very good, great warm up. And they had a nice house tonight. The audience that was there, the people were there to show support. I know a lot of people came out showing support for Mel, but at the same time, just to see an arena with people watching boxing again is a great thing, man. And I was glad to see that. Really glad to see that. Any other thoughts on that fight, Reggie, or anything else?
No, that was that on that fight. Oh, but the one thing I forgot to point out in that Charlo fight, the thing in that Charlo fight that I thought, going back to that fight, that Castano was doing well, and I see him trying to pull Jamel into it, was what he was doing to get Charlo near those ropes. And I think Charlo was seeing a little bit what he's doing, was when Castano was taking a steps back, where he was going back near the ropes. And that was to lure Charlo to get him where he wanted him. And I thought that was pretty intelligent of Castano. That was just the one thing I wanted to add in.
Yeah, you just reminded me of something I wanted to add that I noticed about what Castano was doing technique-wise. Reggie, he had a very good hook off the jab.
Oh, hell yeah.
Man, his hook off the jab was lit, bro. I mean, he was throwing that. That might be his best combination, because he was hooking off the jab, and that's what was surprising Mel, because it wasn't always a hook. It wasn't always a jab, but when he would mix in the hook off the jab, that's what was catching him. Just like, and a couple of times he was doing it to the head, a couple of times to the body. I was like, that's a nice combination for that dude, man. He was scoring with that shot. Definitely that. And I just, you know, it's great to see a competitive fight, right? It's like to see two guys. I mean, like I said, neither guy is a guy that I'm like, oh, that's my man or whatever, you know. I don't feel that way about the fighters of today. The guys that I felt like that were from a era gone by. They're all retired now, you know. But it's like, I like to watch these guys and see who separates themselves. And when you have a fight like this, where these are the type of people that should be fighting one another. You just don't know, and you want to see more of it. You know what this makes me think about? It makes you think about what's not happening in the welterweight division. You know, with Crawford not fighting Thurman and Porter and guys like that, or Danny Garcia, or you know, because when you have those fights like that, you can separate through victories and defeats. You can separate who's who. And some guys just have taken the adage that, you know, if I never faced him, he didn't beat me. You know, but there's no victory in that. There's no luster in that. It's like, dude, you need to get in there against your contemporaries. Huh? How many times did people want to see, you know, the Lakers and the Celtics, because they were the cream of the crop when they were good, you know, back in the day, or later on when it was Detroit and the Bulls and stuff like that. It's like you live for those times. These guys today, you know what it's like, Reggie? You know how like LeBron started that thing of going to the other teams and teaming up with other stars and winning championships that way? That's kind of like what it is. These guys are all buddies of each other. And, oh, we don't fight. That's my friend. You know, it's like we're good. It's like, dude, you're ruining 60% of the sport with fights that ain't gonna happen because you guys have taken this stupid stance, you know, or philosophy, and it's like it's not good. And then you get mad when somebody do a video and critique you on it and say stuff like, you know, these guys should be fighting each other. It's a shame, whatever. And they're like, oh, if I see that dude, I'll slap him and this and that. It's like, really, you gonna get mad for a guy that's sitting up here on the microphone talk about what they would like to see you doing in a sport that we watch, you know? But yeah, anyway, but that's what I wanted to say about that.
Yeah, and that was all that I had.
Yeah, so, but man, once again, what a great night of boxing, boys. Sometimes we could get these moments of great, you know, great happenings in the sport, and you just never know when it's going to be that way. It's like until it takes place. But tonight was definitely something that we could like really look forward to, you know, and possibly get a rematch up out of this. You know what I'm saying? So hopefully, I mean, yeah. But why don't you give us some final thoughts, Reggie, and you know what you got to say about, you know, tonight's evening, and let everybody know where they could follow you and everything.
Yes, sir, man. And once again, man, keep these good fights coming, boxing world. Keep these good fights coming. Fighters, make these fights. Make as many fights as possible, because you never know what may happen, especially with this dang virus around. Fight, get paid. But another great night of boxing, man. This is a very, very good night of boxing. And we saw some things, and we saw a fighter who has, you know, captured the respect of those who have died in him, and Brian Castano. And also, Charlo's going to have to go back in there with this guy, and hopefully makes the adjustments, and really just the activity, makes the activity change. Going in that rematch becomes more active, but fight a boxing style fight, because you can't do it. You just got to stay active and move around. Looking forward to whenever that fight happens. Hopefully they do it in this year. That rematch should happen within this year. Don't have to be prolonged. It should happen in this year. They can fight in October or something like that, November. But they definitely should be fighting a rematch this year. But looking forward to more of these matches. We got Earl Spence looking to take the reins from Pacquiao. Don't count Pacquiao out. That ain't no easy fight for Earl Spence. Pac's a veteran experience means a lot. So looking forward to that. Coming up next month, which this month will be over quickly. And you guys catch me on Boxing Conversation, Reggie Owens, and the backup channel as well is the same name with the number 2. But I'll catch you guys on the next fight. Peace.
Yeah, man. And another great post-fight show, man, talking about the sport that we love. Hey, listen, all we want is quality fights and matchups and whatnot, and we were able to see that this evening. We were able to, enjoy some damn good boxing. So let's just, keep it going, man. That's and we should see a rematch of these guys. We need to see a rematch. So, with that said, man, salute to you and KQKC for you guys' calls on the fight, and we look forward to the next one. But this is Stormy B Man, and for my man Boxing Conversation with Reggie Owens, this has been the post-fight show. Charlo versus Castano, the battle for the undisputed junior middleweight and super welterweight championship of the world, ended with a draw, and it's another travesty in the sport, but a damn good fight for these two men, and we look forward to them facing each other again in the future. So, but that's all we got for you this evening. Please, if you've been hanging around and didn't hit that like button, hit that like button on your way out, and we'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.